Hello, welcome everyone. Hey,
Hey,
I'm just allowing people in right now.
got you.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
You look amazing. I am good. New month.
I know rent is due.
Just gonna pretend that it's a brand new month. I'm just gonna happily pretend.
that it doesn't exist.
Coming up with things.
I love it.
Okay,
Well,
just allowing people in.
Hello,
Hi, Mumby. Hi, where's
how
everyone
are you?
from? If you put in the chat where you're tuning in, and
Okay.
just trying to give people some time to join. And as I always said in previous Q&As, feel free to, turn your camera on if you can. We want to see your lovely faces. We want this to be as informal, interactive as possible. That way, she's not just staring at some squares, some black squares. Show your lovely face if you can. Awesome. We have Charlotte, Atlanta, Kenya, Lagos, Nigeria. Oh my goodness, everywhere.
oh my God, we worldwide.
You are worldwide with it. Virginia, Kansas City, Rochester, Queens. This is beautiful. London,
Ooh, I'm trying to go to London. Someone help me get out there.
LA, the hell. I know, me too. Okay, still people are still trickling in. I try to make it, at a time where all these different time zones can actually connect. That way it's not too early and not too late. So
Right, that's so stressful because like everyone, like the whole like especially like Black film and photo community is so like worldwide, and we all like see each other on Twitter, but then everyone's in different time zones, so coordinating is like crazy.
it's always hard, but thank you so much for taking the time. And then you're taking the time before you even stop by Google. Okay, her next stop is at Google, so I'm honored. I'm like, okay.
Thank you. When you
Oh
guys
my
trip.
goodness.
Oh, someone said I'm down for a photo trip in London. I'm down.
Yes, London
London
we go.
meetup.
Okay. Um, people are still joining, but we have so much to get through and so little time. And so I'd love for you to introduce yourself, and thank you everyone who's joining to this Q&A powered by Adobe Lightroom. So thank you all so much. Okay, we have this London trip is going to happen sometime. There's more for London. Okay. But I will let you introduce yourself because I don't even know where
I
to
know, right? This is a good move.
start. Okay, so whenever
No,
you
no,
are ready,
you
the floor
froze
is
a
yours.
little bit.
What was that?
You froze a little bit. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Is this better?
Yep.
I was just saying, whenever you are ready to introduce yourself, because I don't even know where to start and what you are multi-hyphenated. So I don't want to butcher it. So please.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Sade Ndya. I'm a cinematographer based in LA, originally from Palm Springs, which is like super random, but it kind of inspired me. Like, it's a lot of my background of why I became a filmmaker. I grew up in like white suburbia, which was very interesting, but there was like a definite lot of erasure of like being seen by my own. So I decided to come to LA, go to film school, and even film school was a little whitewashed. It wasn't really truly serving me, and so I uh, reached out to a lot of folks on Twitter and like Instagram, and they kind of like helped me find like my Black film and photo community. And so like that's how we met. That's how I've met some of my closest collaborators, is like via the internet, and then also through my production company, the Red Futon, where we freelance producing, and I shoot some of the stuff, some commercial and music video content. And then also on the side, I'm a mentor for Made in Her Image, which is this really dope nonprofit that I work with that is dedicated to uplifting women, brown and Black women, into the film industry, and like give them the proper resources that they need to enter the field, because the industry can be very growing community that we can like support each other in different forms and just create like a substantial ecosystem. But hopefully we go to London, hopefully we go to New York, to Kenya, all these places soon.
Yes, that is beautiful. And so you have a lot of questions and that have already been submitted. And if questions come up, feel free to just put it in the chat if you have a question that comes up as we go along. I'm just going to start with the ones that are already submitted. And so the first one is basically, this is from Gabby. She asks, hey, I've been following you for a while on Twitter and you're a huge inspiration for me. I wanted to know how you got into it, when your passion for cinematography began, and how you broke into the industry as a Black woman.
Oh, that's a good question. Sorry, 1 second, real quick. My cat is outside.
Okay, no problem. And to the folks that just joined, please feel free to turn on your camera. I'm still admitting people. And if questions come up, feel free to just ask along the way.
I'm so sorry. My cat is like a nuisance and he was like trying to go outside. But just to reiterate your question, you were asking, someone asked, breaking into the industry as a Black woman. What was the question?
Like basically, how did you break into it as a Black woman in this white dominated space?
Ooh, that was that's trial and error for sure. I think producing a lot of my own content kind of helped me get to the forefront of like shooting, because from the very get-go, I always wanted to be a DP, and like people aren't usually used to seeing like Black women behind the camera specifically, because there's a lot of technical, there's a lot of like experience that goes into the mix as well. And so a lot of my struggles coming up was just finding the opportunity, finding the sets to shadow, finding the right people that will like create a safe space for me to learn and grow as an artist. And so being able to produce my own content kind of allowed me to create that space for myself. And so I was producing a lot of photo content actually in the beginning, and it kind of just helped me understand the dynamics of a set, what goes into lighting, what goes into production design, what goes into casting talent, XYZ. And then having that like forefront helped me transition into video a lot smoother, because I knew how to produce my own photo content and it was easy to translate into video. And then that just gave me more experience, and then kind of just got my name out there so that I could meet other people to like hire me for video work specifically, instead of having to produce my own content. But I think definitely it's important for for Black women to kind of get in the room, is to start producing your own content and learn like the nitty gritty shit that goes into actually making the sets happen, making the content happen, because that helps you understand how to fight for your rate, how to get in the room, what you need for XYZ shoots, especially like in photo. Well, like being to understand production end really helps.
That's a good transition, because I actually want to show people, I know everyone in here is familiar with your work, but I wanted you to walk us through a typical day of a set. And so I'm about to share my screen. Bear with me, y'all. 1 second. I have a lot of tabs open that are all about you. So,
Oh, damn.
so okay, does everyone see this? Your most recent one I want to pull up right now. Does everyone see that okay?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So this is one that you did when?
So I shot this a month ago, a little bit over a month ago, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna play the first clip.
You've got big plans for your small business, and Constant Contact's email marketing tools make it easy to stay connected with customers, so you can do more business online without the heavy lifting. Power on with Constant Contact. Try it free today.
Amazing. And then I'm gonna play the second one from the same brand.
You've got big plans for your small business. You've got big plans for your small business. And Constant Contact has everything you need to connect with customers, find new ones, and sell more of your awesome stuff online. With email marketing, online stores, and more to help you do more business anytime, anywhere, so you can keep powering on without slowing down. Up top, power on with Constant Contact. Try it free today.
Amazing. So walk us through that. what does it take from idea to execution, from people reaching out to you? You know, walk us through this process from seeing it to come to fruition.
Right. Yeah. For that one, so that was an interesting one because that was more heavily a commercial client. And that was an interesting kind of test for me because it was my first real time like working on a heavy stage rigging setup. And so the directors, when they reached out to me, when I was kind of just being interviewed for the job, they had like a very in-depth breakdown of what they wanted. Like the references were super clear, super upfront. They had like scene by scene kind of laid out, and like even like some shot progressions laid out. And so working with commercial clients especially is kind of interesting because you have to find, even though they have everything planned out, you have to find that little niche that like makes them kind of want to hire you. Like, what is going to make your work stand out? How are you going to light this differently than XYZ DP that's over going for the job? And it's also kind of hard because like most of the time I'm going up for jobs against like other white men who have shot like Travis Scott videos, like a lot of like bigger projects. And so I always kind of, when I get a treatment in, I kind of look at the treatment, break it down, and think of like just critical ways that I can like make this more visually interesting and like kind of bring my own spice into it. And so even just for that commercial specifically, a lot of my background is like studying like the Black New York filmmakers, New York and UCLA filmmakers that kind of like came up, and like there's a lot of just like little visual styles that I love to pull into my own references and stuff. And so do you see that box shot that kind of went across screen? That was kind of a reference to Spike Lee and like his double dolly moments that he does in a lot of his narrative works. And I just thought it would be like a little spice because we're talking about how we can relate camera to also the client and make it feel like a very connected kind of movement going left to right. And so that was like one of the initial ideas I pitched, and they really loved that. And then we also pitched a few like lighting gags, like when the lights come up and it's like, like all heavenly. That was just like another fun like creative pitch that I had. And so like I've noticed that just like getting into the room with these commercial clients, it's good to have like XYZ different ways that you can make it your own and make it spice up, because it's so easy for an image maker to show up on a job and be like, oh yeah, I can just do XYZ, put XYZ light together, but you have to find ways to like elevate the creativity of commercial specifically. And so with that one, that was fun. We had a pretty big crew for that. And it was like just like stage rigging. I wish I knew you were showing this. I would have showed some BTS, but that was like a fun setup for sure. But if there's any other specific breakdowns you want me to do about that, I can go into that as well.
One person, oh my goodness, I may butcher your name, so please correct me. Davisa? I'm so sorry, that's wrong. Feel free to correct me. I don't know if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question, because it's kind of related to this.
Yep.
Hiya, sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, big fan of your work. I just wanted to ask, so I'm like shooting my first narrative short next week, and yeah, just wanted to get any tips on working with my cinematographer. Like we've already kind of like chatted through stuff, but maybe like just any like general tips from like end to end how I should go about working with them, because I feel like narrative is so much more different to like anything else, just because it's like adding words to stuff just complicates it, and I've mainly done like music videos and stuff before, but I feel like and it's like non-actors as well that I'm working with.
Ooh, that's gonna be fun. Yeah, I think for narrative it's interesting. I think maybe for me personally, what I always do is just really nailing in on intentionality. Like a lot of my like idols in filmmaking always have every shot means something to the grand picture. And so like just making sure that you're having this conversation with your DP, like what is the intentionality behind like this lighting gag or this focal length, and how is it aiding the story and like the bigger picture, the bigger theme of the project, are good questions to ask. But just like really making sure that you're grounding yourself in the truth of the story, and like especially like if you're working with like new actors too, like it's going to save you to have your visual very strong and like connected, and that'll help you. But from the text side, I mean, it also is really dependent on the director too. Like different directors have different preferences of how they work, but if there's any other specific tech questions too, I can help out with that too.
You know, there have been some specific ones. I mean, a few actually have been about your lighting, because it's beautiful lighting work. Chan asked a question over Twitter about your lighting, and in the chat we have one from Des. Now, how did you learn your lighting techniques? Is this something that you, again, you said like just trial and error, just going out and doing it? Or for you, like what book did you pick up, or how did you even just like learn?
Yeah, a big part of it was film school. I think for film specifically, it's a lot more dramatic and heavy lifting and XYZ like technical aspects that you need to kind of like really like hone in on. So like the beginning of film school kind of really helped me get the tools that I needed, and then I like made it into my own. But a lot of the resources that I learned in film school are available on YouTube, like just knowing like lighting ratios or like how different kinds of diffusion can like affect a mood or like a shape of a light, or like just knowing your different light sources for video specifically. But then from a photo aspect, a lot of what I learned about lighting was just trial and error. Like I when I moved to LA, I was shooting I was shooting like ratchet photo shoots, like taping and seamlesses to like my studio apartment that I shared with another person, and I'd be shooting like portraits of my friends and trying to do commissions left and right. And then when I was able to like kind of get my own first like larger space, I created like a home studio and just invested in, it wasn't even like good lights, like it was shitty, like a Savage like softbox lighting kit. It was like $100. And it was just like a standard softbox kit. And then I bought like a few C stands from Amazon, and it was just like bare bones lighting, but I was able to just like be safe in my own space to learn and kind of like mess up and see what I like, what I don't like, what characteristics do I need to grow on in my lighting, what do I feel really good about, and stuff like that. And so like being able, I would definitely advise, especially like Black women photographers, upcoming Black women photographers, is to invest in like a lighting kit and even just like some fabric backdrops, and just like test on your friends and like allow yourself to fuck up in a safe space instead of like a workspace, because of that becomes a lot more chaotic. But just like having just like minimum kind of it's a good challenge to like test yourself and see like how well or how much you can light with like limited resources, and that kind of helps translate into video too when you're shooting run and gun stuff or even bigger stuff. Like you get a lot more humbled but with what you need and what you don't need.
Definitely. I mean, Chan asked over Twitter, do you have a go-to lighting setup?
Not necessarily. I think it's like well, I guess if we're going back to like film school dynamics, like I'm always referencing like clean 3-point lighting, but it's always like expanded upon depending on the story or the mood of what I'm trying to capture in light.
And what has been your favorite work to date so far?
I just worked on this short film called Prepared. It's not out yet.
Okay, I did not see that on the list.
But that was the last short film I did before COVID kind of became crazy. We shot like January, February. But it was just like a wholesome, like fulfilling experience. Like it was all like Black women department heads, which is like, I've never seen that. And so it was really cool. And like, I got the opportunity through like some mutual friends that I had on Twitter, but it's this really raw, short narrative film about this thicker woman who comes to terms with self-love and like kind of her journey with it. And I found a lot of just like relatable moments in my own personal life, my own upbringing. And so it felt fulfilling to be telling stories that specifically resonated with me and like just where my soul was at the time. And it was a low budget for sure, but we finessed, and it also kind of like humbled me into seeing like where in the long term, like what are my priorities. And like it always has just been narrative filmmaking about specifically Black identity. And we even had our own Spike Lee references in there. I'll send you videos to post if you want, but it was very low budget, but like we had like very key, like talking about intentionality, we had like really stern shots that we wanted to get. We wanted to get like a double dolly moment, and we had no like budget for a dolly actually. And so we got like this ratchet cart that we rented from the rental house, but it was like a cheaper alternative, like way cheaper, like 10, it was only like $10 or something like that. And we like rigged camera, and then we have like it's like this beautiful shot. It's like we rigged the camera to the like, it's like a storage cart like they have at IKEA or some shit. We rigged camera to that, and I'm sitting like underneath the camera like hella constrained, and then Talent's like in the front, and we're doing like a double dolly kiss moment. And it was just like pure like moments like that where it's like you're still making the vision happen but with limited resources, and like everyone was so excited about that shot on set. And like those are kind of the moments I live for, like on set, just like going towards a bigger cause and stuff, and the finesse factor of filmmaking, I guess.
That's beautiful. I mean, one of my favorites so far, I'm about to share my screen again and show y'all. I'm going to talk about this actually because I have some of your tweets that really just like, ooh, just hit it home for me, and I'm sure for others.
You got the
in August, you tweeted, a few years ago, a film professor told me that I never get work shooting explicitly Black art. Now I'm signed at 21 by my dream agency for making said Black art and sticking to what I believe in. I mean, okay, we're gonna come back to that, but I'm gonna show this real quick. If those who haven't seen it, let me play this one.
God, I haven't seen this in so long. Damn, I shot this on a Sony. This is so old. This was a finesse though.
So, I mean, with that said, let me move this real quick. That is amazing. I love that one. Was this similar to the other one, or did you have more creative room to do that work?
Yeah, this was something I kind of did it was like a year, 2 years ago or something. It was kind of when I was first starting like freelancing cinematography, and like this was like one of those more like videographer gigs where someone was like, come up, pull up, we need to get some video for this photo shoot that we're doing for Milk. And it was interesting. It was like kind of like my first real kind of like fun like editorial shoot, but like for those are fun because you have like more creative control and you kind of just shoot and you find interesting frames and then you will handle post and everything and deliver it to client. But it wasn't like that one was like less, it was like more run and gun, like quicker pace and stuff. And so we just like found cute moments, and I was like, I'll bring some fun filters and XYZ, a little bit of lighting, and that's it.
So going back to the tweet, I mean, a lot of us in this chat, all the things like we work on are specifically Black life, Black art. Yep. And, you know, you've been told countless times that you weren't going to make it doing this, right? So how did you keep going, and how did you know that this is like, okay, I can still make it in this regards? Because I remember back in March when the pandemic was really early on and you were like about to give up. I remember that tweet. Like, I could pull that up too. I actually have that pulled up. So you said in March 20th to be exact, that this just effing sucks because I've worked so damn hard to make a life for myself here in LA and prove to my family that my passion actually financially means something, all to be taken away in one quick instant. I have to go back to square one. So like, yes. And now fast forward, I mean, you have so many commercials on your belt and things like that. I saw the Chloe and Halle, you know, coming up. But for that, it's like you still stuck to, you know, what you wanted to shoot, and you still found a way, even if, you know, you went to back to square one. So how, you know, talk to us about that.
Yeah, you getting raw and gritty. This is why we need more Black women fucking panels, because people just be asking the bare minimum. But
let's keep it real, please.
No, I think that's like so important to talk about, because it's like I don't know, it's like, especially with social media and stuff, like everything's like kind of just for show, and like we don't see like the raw grittiness of like why like what XYZ is going through and what they had to go through to even get to where they are. And so like for me, that's why I've been so transparent with like my Twitter specifically, because it's like I am not the type of I'm a Leo. I'm very passionate. I'm not the one to like put up a front. Like I'm always feeling everything at once, and like that's just like allowed me to also like just connect to people on a deeper level when I create art specifically. And so like that was interesting times for me for sure. But I think I guess what kind of got me through that is like, one, it was definitely support from my friends, like there was just like a lot of just internal like revamping that I had to do in my own personal life when COVID kind of like just broke out. But then also I realized I don't see myself doing anything else. Like I was like, am I gonna get a 9 to 5 and do XYZ? Like I just don't visually like see myself happy, but even just like functionally doing anything else. And so I was like, what am I gonna do to make this work regardless of what's going on in the world right now? And so like I was just like doing everything I could to just like, I thought I was just shooting like random stuff, like more like videographer, running gun stuff, just to like at least keep my rent going so I could stay in LA. Because I knew that if I moved back to my hometown, it would be so hard for me to move back because just nothing happens there. And so I think that's like really important to talk about too, especially in like this kind of space, is like there's going to be a lot of moments where you have to sacrifice your integrity, your pride, whatever, and just like, especially like in between gigs or like when you're first kind of coming up, like you have to do a lot of like nitty gritty work that you're not going to 100% love, but it's going to help you at least financially get to where you need to be. And regardless of what the job is, like every job that you do shooting is going to like teach you like moving forward, and there's something to pull from every job. And even when I was doing like the nitty gritty jobs, I was learning XYZ about lighting, how I can elevate XYZ, what I need for a run and gun shoot for my camera package and stuff like that. And so that was definitely a challenge, but I think I learned a lot about myself through it for sure.
And so when you have like those dry spells, how do you, I mean, like in terms of like the business side that we don't often talk about, to your point, how do you sustain yourself for that way? You're like, okay, I don't have work right now, so you pick up the nitty gritty, but what other like financial tips or just any type of literacy within the business side? What advice do you have for, those here that are watching and those who will watch later? Yeah.
I think, Kira Kelly, she's like the first Black woman to be signed to the ASC. She's like a legend for all Black women cinematographers, but she has this really good piece of advice where she says, live below your means. And I took that shit to heart. Like I learned the hard way too, that I had to really hone that in. But living below your means like not splurging on XYZ, only invest in things that go back to your process and your trade, but also try to like live below crazy expenses, because LA can be kind of crazy to like stay afloat. And if you're constantly spending, when a COVID hits or when a dry spell hits, it really hits. And so for me, like just really honing it in on my savings and I really only invest money. I tweeted this too, like I only invest money in my own camera gear so that I can build my package and just like be able to shoot when I need to. But other than that, like I've just tried to really skim down priorities in life. Like as long as I have a bed, I'm really simple. I have a small ass room. As long as I have a bed, my cat, and my friends, and a camera package, I'm good to go. And so I think it's just really reevaluating like what you need in this lifetime. And like, especially if you're the kind of image maker that's all you see yourself doing, you have to really be able to hone that in, because especially living in big cities where like LA or like a New York, it's going to be really hard to stay afloat because freelancing is like so many highs and lows.
That's a good transition, because Brisha, I'm not sure if she's in here or not, but she submitted a question asking, I'm not sure if you are an LA native or not, but for those who are looking to move to LA or any other big city, what are some great tactics to get to meet other Black women and great connections in LA in the film industry? So, when you made that move, did you know people ahead of time? If not, how did you make it for that way you have this little network to make it possible to, stay in the city? So it's easy to get lost in a city like LA. It really is.
Really. I mean, for me, honestly, it was Twitter, but I think now, this year specifically, like, your collective is fucking amazing. There's another collective that I'm a part of called Sporas Co. And there's just so many different collectives dedicated to like bringing Black and brown folks specifically together. And so like it's really important to like get yourself invested in that. There's the JTC list on Facebook. It's run by Cheryl on Twitter. Do you follow her?
Mm-mm.
She's amazing. She's this powerful Black woman that's like experienced crazy shit in the industry. Like she's become like a cool friend of mine that I just met through Twitter. But she has created space too for Black and brown women specifically in filmmaking to like connect. And so like it's important to, I can also like send a list of this too as well if you guys want, but it's important to like just reach out to like the online communities, and then also just do the work to make it in real life too, because it's so easy to just be on social media and the internet XYZ, but it's important to be like doing the research, but then also meeting and connecting with people in real life. Like Aspen in the chat, I met her on Twitter, she's like a dope photographer, we linked up, we got e-coffee. Like it's so important to be actually taking the time to say, hey, let's get coffee, or let's just have like an e-meeting and just talk about what we love, what we care about, what we want to do in LA, and that kind of helps you kind of build your community. But I think definitely like staying afloat in big cities like this is making sure you have that community kind of laid out, because they'll vouch for you, they'll recommend you to jobs, and they'll support you on jobs as well.
That's amazing. You know, again, I told you I'm gonna pull up another tweet.
I can't. This is funny. I've never experienced this.
You said in October, tired of white men acting shocked when they find out I'm the DP on set. And we have a lot of questions related to that. You know, it's no secret this is a white male dominated industry. You are a Black woman. So talk to us about that. How did you even feel comfortable to pursue this in such a field where you don't see others like you? You know, you talked about now you have a little network, but still, like, how do you get to have your own creative voice in a space that tells you that you don't belong here?
Oh, I'm still trying to find that. Honestly, I think it's definitely a lot of like imposter syndrome for sure, like being in these spaces, especially since I got signed, I've been more in like larger commercial spaces, and you have to please client, you have to please producers and directors and XYZ, and so, and your crew even, because I'm working with more versed and like bigger crews now, and so like there's just so many different facets of people saying like you don't belong, and I'm like, I'm here anyways. And so I think what's kind of helped me is just like always just honing in on like why I'm even here in the first place. Like I make visuals because I have a passion for telling stories, and like how is this going to attribute to a larger whole in my path of life, XYZ. And so especially on set too, like there's just a lot of nitty-gritty instances where I feel like, oh, this person is treating me this way because I am a Black woman, and they feel like they can kind of walk over me and XYZ. And so like I still kind of struggle with that, but I think for me, always just thinking about how I can make everybody else's life easier. Like when things get stressful on set, I'm like, oh, XYZ, why don't we, I like create a game. I like you see the clocks running in my head. I'm like, I just try to move quick and find solutions for us to move quick and for the schedule to like be easier on everyone, and work with the AD and work with the director to see like, oh, XYZ, this is what we need to do to make this happen. We can't realistically make this happen, XYZ, and just like being transparent and communicative through tough times like that kind of like help people feel safe and like be able to trust me and communicate about how we can make a project happen. And so I think communication is key, finding creative ways that make you stand out, like I said earlier with the like how I go into like commercial pitches and stuff like that, kind of just help me kind of just make my place known. I feel like I'm still kind of earning that respect from like white counterparts sometimes on set, but I think just like being comfortable in myself and like being myself and is all I can really do. Like I can't really control how people are going to perceive me, and like once you like let go of that feeling, it's like liberating, and you're just like, I'm just here. Like if you want to treat me XYZ, that's on you, that's a reflection on you, but I'm gonna do my job. Like I came here to do one thing only.
Do you still feel like you have to prove yourself, you know, to those counterparts, or like you said, are you just showing up and this is, you know, I am who I am and I know I'm good? Like
yeah, I'm not that, I wish I was that Leo woman's, but I'm not. Like I'm not like I'm here, like I definitely feel insecure about it at times, and I feel like I'm still trying to find where I stand in this, especially as my career moves on. And I think that's just like, that's things that people will face in their life inevitably. Like there are DPs that have some of my mentors, like I've talked to them specifically about it, and they said they're like, that doesn't go away, especially as a woman of color in these spaces. Like it's never going to go away. So it's more about how you choose to handle it for your own personal mental health. Like I've asked so many people about imposter syndrome because I'm still trying to find my own tips, and like people are like, oh, I have a good therapist, or I really communicate on set, or I just, for me personally, like I really just go in on pre-production. Like I really just like I do my lighting overheads like way earlier than it needs to be. I try to communicate with everyone, call everyone, be very pre-planned. And I think that's what is kind of frustrating for me sometimes as a Black woman DP even, is because I feel like I need to be over prepared for jobs, but then I pull up on these sets with these white film bros and they like don't even do shit. They're like, oh, put a light here, da, 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 and like they still get more respect than I do. And so that can become frustrating, but that's just like the inevitable path that I have for myself in this industry.
Brisha has another question. They ask, how do you maneuver around it? When you're in these covert racist places and the microaggressions and things like that, and like the ones you've already tweeted about, the ones that you haven't,
Right.
how do you just really maneuver around it? Like, how do you honestly deal with it?
Kind of what I said, just like communication and really honing in on your pre-production. I guess even in photography too, like when you're working with photo clients, like when I was doing photo too, like I was experiencing weird shit from clients, like testing if I knew how to do XYZ or if I knew how to edit XYZ. And like just really being, especially for me, like I go in on my treatments, like as a cinematographer I do a lot of treatments sometimes for like bigger commercial things, and that's not really conventional with a lot of cinematographers, but I do it so that I can even show you guys one if you want, but I go in on like visual references, like creating a mood board for lighting, and then also like going in on my overheads, and then just kind of like creating a basis of why I choose XYZ lens and camera package. And that kind of just helps me be able to like make one key document to just send out to everybody. Like I send that to the director, I send that to the producer, I send that to my AC, I send that to my gaffer, and so that they can kind of, I can be transparent about what I have for my game plan of the cinematography of a project, and then we can work from there. And like the treatment obviously kind of revamps as people hop into the project, but I think it kind of helps me say like, oh, I have a clear idea of what I want and this is what's going to happen. How are you going to help me make this happen? Or what needs to be changed for the project to happen?
Madison says, please show us.
Yes. Okay, wait. I think I have the one for the Chloe and Halle one. Wait.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Wait, let me see if oh yeah, okay. Damn, this is the real tea. Oh wait, can you enable screen sharing?
Yes. Let me see. They're not automatically.
Oh, let me like close my tabs too, because I have like other stuff.
Are you allowed to do it or no?
Let's see.
If not, I can just make you a host.
Oh yeah, it's still disabled. Yeah, I think making me a host maybe might work.
Okay, I'm gonna make you the host right now. You should be able to now.
Oh, dope. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is like a sample of like a cinematography deck I made for a commercial client. We were doing, it's already out, so like I can talk about it. But it was, we were shooting like an award show, and we were shooting like the artist intros to the awards and stuff. And so Chloe and Halle were the hosts, and they wanted to play with this kind of concept of creating like a projection room. So there were like several projection walls kind of like paved out, and they were projecting different visuals of like the iconic woman that they were kind of capturing or like honoring in the award show. And so for me, like when I got that job, I was thinking about like, how can I elevate this? A big concern of theirs was like making sure that lighting didn't bleed out into the projection screens, because that was like a big part of the concept. And but also finding like visual engaging ways to like make the lighting really pop and like feel really glam, but also like kind of like an award show kind of vibe. And so we ended up not getting these lenses because of budget, but I found another way. But that might actually be interesting to talk about. I originally wanted to get like these Russian lenses that kind of created like star bokeh in the background, but budget didn't really work with that. So I found a solution to there's like these filters that Prism FX sells, and it's like a star filter. It's like a starburst. It's like those 5-point star filters that like a lot of photographers use as well. And so we implemented that so that things would actually like pop in the screen. Like it makes sources kind of create like a star effect. So it kind of had a similar feel. And like that was just like a visual cue I wanted to symbolically implement to the project, because we were capturing these women that we wanted to feel like stars and have like a very strong like feminine power to like what we were capturing. And so these were just like some of the shot progressions. I was just pitching like a few ways we could shoot it. And so we were shooting two cameras. One was on Steadicam and one was a static camera for just coverage. And so I was just referencing kind of, I looked into like Black Girls Rock, like how they shoot that. And like they always have like a clean medium close-up just for coverage. And then they have something on Steadicam kind of floating around just to get creative shots. And that was kind of like the sample that I used for this specific project. And so I laid out kind of like where directionally we'd be shooting. This is like a sample of like, this isn't my lighting overhead, but this is just like a camera overhead so client could see. I think there was a newer version of this that I put my lighting overheads in here. And then I just pulled samples that I liked. Some lighting references. I wanted to have like that star thing. So we had star effects. So we had, we had sources, like we had source for Licos kind of in the frame to kind of have that star effect in the background. And then we were kind of creating like a spot. Oh, this is the old one. Hold on. Let me see if I have the newer one.
And when you were presented this, you know, how much did the client tell you ahead of time, and how much, you know, were you just like free creative reign for this pitch deck?
It was a mixture of both. I think that's the challenge of hold on, let me share my screen. Oh, I lost y'all. That's kind of the challenge of working with more like commercial clients, is like you can have an initial idea, but it constantly gets changed and there's notes and XYZ. But I think having a strong game plan in the beginning kind of helped me get to where I wanted to, because they kind of figure like, oh, she has her shit together, like she wants this specific look, we're cool with this looks amazing, whatever. And then it got like tweaked a little bit, like on set, of course, like things inevitably change.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this was like kind of light reference, like we had a spotlight feel coming from overhead, so we had like a layer of source for Licos. Here's the lighting overhead. It was like kind of like we were lighting like a hallway. We had some quasars like kind of aligned on the sides. And then we were getting like some string lights to kind of have that like star effect. But this is just like I do this roughly just depending on the job. Like sometimes it just helps me kind of feel more organized because I'm a Leo. I need to control everything. So I need everything to be kind of like in place and like upfront and communicated. And so it just helps me be like upfront with jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's actually Madi, I hope I'm saying your name right. He asked, how do you maintain your productivity?
Ooh, sis. Aspen knows in the chat. Just I think before I had like weird schedules where I would work at night, and it just became unhealthy for me personally because I just would not sleep. So I have a lot of early mornings now. Like I've kind of created space for me to wake up early. My body reacts really well to like natural light. So I work in the living room. I have my little, you guys can even see it. It's like my little table. I work here in the morning. Have my coffee in the morning. I just like find ways to like work during the day because that's just when I feel more productive.
Okay.
Aurelie, my assistant, she's in the chat. She's like, Sade, you haven't responded to this email in 3 days. And I'm like, thank you. So like, I think having people, even if it's not an assistant, like just having friends that hold you accountable is really helpful. Like, before I had Aurelie, I was having work sessions with like one of my best friends who's a director. We would just like sit together and like make treatments together and cry. And it was really fun, but it helped us kind of hold each other accountable and like be productive together. Like having someone to vouch for you is really helpful.
You know, that brings me to my next question and my next receipt that I'm about to pull up.
Oh, she has all the receipts.
Can you make me host again? Let me see. Okay, am I back at host? Let me see. Let me share my screen. Okay.
Yes, Aspen came over the other day. We had a little function. It was COVID safe. We've all been tested. We had a little function at my house where it was just like all my friends, like Black and brown, like female friends in cinematography and film, and we all just like had like we were just doing brainless stuff because we never have time to like actually celebrate after projects and stuff because we're all just like on our own schedules. And so we just like all had like a little tea time. We had some wines. There were some Trulies involved, some White Claws. And we played like a card game and just got to know each other on a more intimate level. And I think that's so important. Like it's really easy to get caught up in work, but it's important to like take moments and like appreciate the people that you work with and like create a safe space, because that just makes creating and working in this industry all that more fun.
Yes, like you said, that's so necessary. Could you make me host again real quick?
Oh snap! Oh, okay, there.
Okay, let me share my screen. I promise this is probably the last one. And this is the fun one.
I love this
Good one. So we all know the How It Started, How It's Going meme.
Oh yes.
Yes, how it started. And now how it's going. Yes. And, talk to us about that. A lot of us probably aren't working with teams, and it's hard to build a team. So for you, what was your experience like? They say not to have your friends with work, but you'd still do that and it's still going very well for y'all. Just talk to us about that, building a team and working with your friends and how one can, find that team. And someone asked, like, are you open to bi-coastal team, deciding somebody wants to be on your team, so you're open to that, or do you want to keep your team in one city kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like a big part of my journey has always just been like the story I told earlier, we're like shooting from home, like creating space for me to learn and like mess up on my own. And so like that first photo was in my apartment actually, where I like had my own like ratchet lighting sources and stuff, like softbox or whatever. But that was wholesome because it was like a lot of the people in that project were just people that I was meeting in LA. It was like that was more of like a passion project. It was like a small budget, but we did it just for fun, like to build worlds and like have a chance to like create something where we had full creative control. And then we would just do a few more projects like that, and I would meet people on social media, and like they would all come into my space and I would create with them, and I would get to know them on a more like intimate level, because it was like obviously low budget, and like it was just me and like one person, or me and two people, or me and three people, whatever. And so that kind of just expanded my realm. But I think like for me personally, I mean, I'm doing more like traveling jobs too, so like I'm looking for crew everywhere, honestly. And I always want to grow my team and work with new people. I feel like that's what makes filmmaking so fun, is like the collaborative process of it. And so I do have like kind of my team in LA, but I always find ways to even like, if we can, sometimes we bring on like a camera PA if they're trying to learn about cinematography or like working on XYZ project, or find ways to involve them in different ways.
When you think about hiring someone for a project or for your team, like what do you look for? Like how can someone in here get noticed or stand out to be a part of that?
Communication. I think I get a lot of emails where people kind of reach out and they're like, oh, would love to work with you. But I think it's important to just, I think the best intro emails are kind of like when people are like, oh, this is what I stand for, here's my website. I feel like the work kind of speaks for itself too. But also like I do resonate with how hard it is to kind of like get the resources when you move to LA or like are in these spaces. And so I usually try to set time aside to like maybe meet with them one-on-one and like see like how invested they are into the craft, or like how much they want to learn, and like see how I can support them in different ways. And so the eye emoji. But like I think it's so important to just reach out, and you just never know like what happens from there. Like I had this colorist reach out to me. She seems dope. Colored Only, I'm gonna shout her out because she was so cool. But she started it's like the first black woman owned coloring studio that I've ever like seen, honestly. And she wanted to just have an intro meeting with me to just like meet me, get to know me. And right away, like she just seemed like I loved her passion and how she talked about XYZ, and like I was like, wow, I really want to work with you. I want to find ways to support you. And so it's just important to just like reach out, meet people. Like I said, like community is so important in this whole grand scheme of things. So just reaching out and just it doesn't hurt to just reach out. I say that to my friends too when they shoot their shot with like producers or clients that they want to work with. Like it doesn't hurt to just at least try. You never know like where to go.
Yeah, you really have nothing to lose. And one of the things that you've been so good at, like right now, you're sharing your wealth. And Essence asked, she took a course from you. I think it's the Made in Her Image. Like she took one of your classes, and she wants to know if you're going to be doing more of that in the future.
Yes, definitely. I that was like, I feel like that is what got me through COVID too. We were talking about how I stayed strong. Like I took that class when I was like a really weird place in my career. I wasn't really sure what was going on, but that
It happened to me the other day. Can Oh no, I think, did we lose you? I don't see her. Maybe she'll join back in. That's a problem with our new, I don't want to say new normal, but the situation we're in. Let me see. Okay, great. She's rejoining. And we're almost out of time, y'all. So if you have any burning connections, please, put it in the chat. We'll try to, do a rapid fire burning question. So if you have any questions while she's rejoining, please do drop it in the chat. Or if you want to mute yourself and ask, let me know as we wait for her to rejoin. We're
Hello?
back.
Hey, sorry, my internet totally just crashed. I was like, ooh.
No, it's totally fine. I thought it was me at first. I was about to put on my hotspot because I've been dealing with like flaky power issues here in Oklahoma with ice storms. So, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let me leave on my computer. Okay. I'll just stay on here.
so sorry, I totally missed the last part of what you were saying.
I was just saying, yeah, that's definitely something I'll continue to be doing for probably forever in my career.
And Ashe, I hope I'm saying your name right, and somebody else also asked, what practical tips do you have for someone who is just starting out in this space or who wants to make that transition? What can they do now as a beginner and or as someone who's newer on the end? Like what can they, continue to do to be in this space?
That's a good question. What can you continue to do to be in this space? I think it's kind of what I talked about earlier too, like just making sure that one, you live below your means, and two, you find ways to always be creating, even if it's not the best Instagram worthy job, XYZ. It's important to like still try to find consistency in other ways. So like even if it is a dry spell in your career and you're not working on a lot of things right now, find ways to like educate yourself, like watch videos, read books on the specific craft that you're going for, if it's cinematography or photography. Be reaching out to people, like I said, having intro calls, getting to know people, because there's just so many different facets of like what being an image maker is. And it's not just being on set, it's not just doing the XYZ job. It's about how you prepare yourself for it and how you are constantly just like revamping how you create images and time put in and stuff like that.
So I'm going to try to ask these really quick because I know we're almost out of time, but you have some great questions coming in because I told folks as your way to just do rapid fire, any burning questions. If you're a beginner, what film camera can one start off with for commercial or professional film work?
Ooh, that's kind of, it's very subjective. I think for me personally, I'll just speak on my own personal, because everyone has their own kind of viewpoint on that. But I did not have money coming up. I had to buy a lot of my own gear. I raised money on like Instagram and Twitter for my camera packages and stuff like that, because it was kind of hard for me to get gear in the first place, because I didn't come from money, and my family didn't even really like understand what I was even doing with my life. And so for me, like getting a Sony, my first camera was the Sony A6300, iconic camera. I learned a lot. That was my first video camera. My first photo camera was the Canon T3i, but video wise, like I was able to, like that milk video was shot on my Sony, and like it was able for me to just learn the dynamics of like what camera settings I need for video specifically. And then also just like it helped me create videos even from my like home studio and stuff. Like I was creating a lot of like just like kind of like spec commercials, but also like commercials for like local businesses and stuff. And so I think it's definitely like a pretty good camera to just like learn and teach yourself with. And then of course, like as you move forward in your career, you can invest in like the bigger name cameras. My camera package right now I have is a Blackmagic Ursa package, and it's like that's helped me a lot, because it's a lot more of like a heavy duty workhorse for like documentary stuff. But I've shot a few commercial stuff on that, like low budget commercial stuff, and it's just good for like run and gun to just have your camera package. But I think the Sony is good for like people just coming up for sure. And the A6300 is so cheap. Like right now it's like $500 or something.
You went to film school, but for those who are, not everyone can. So how hard was it for you to find those initial jobs when you went from that transition, Erica asked, from film school to film industry? How hard was that for you? You kind of touched on this, but remember like your first job and how that was? And
what was my first job? I honestly don't remember. I don't remember my first job was, because I like, also for me, it's like when I was in film school, so I didn't finish film school, actually, I just dropped out like last year. But for me personally, it was weird, because like when I was freelancing, like I didn't really know what was a job and what wasn't, because like some stuff was low budget, some stuff like people were only paying for the like lighting budget, or they were paying me like a like sliding scale rate. And so like I kind of just like fell into working, because like I wasn't, in the beginning I wasn't being paid my worth for sure, and that was something I had to like learn through my journey. And so I just kind of started working, I guess, I don't know. And then I think like I said, like just being able to kind of also create a brand for yourself online has helped me. Like, I mean, that's how we met. That's how I've met so many of the people that I've worked with, is like, even if you just have that Sony package, like create like something that you're passionate about from home, or find some, even if it's just stills too, and then just releasing it online and like sharing your work and like making sure that people are seeing what you're doing and what you're creating kind of just helps you grow. And then also it just helps you kind of establish a brand for yourself, and then people will reach people. You never know who's watching. I think that's a big thing to take from social media, is you never know who's watching you and who wants to work with you, and it all like comes out in the end. And so like making sure that you're very vocal about what you're doing, especially as Black women image makers, like it's so important for us to be vocal about what we're creating, what we're investing time with, because people don't know where we are. Apparently they don't know we exist. Like every day I hear I've never seen a Black woman cinematographer, and it's like people just don't know where to find us. And so it's important for us specifically to be investing time in social media for sure.
You mentioned knowing your worth, and that's something that all of us, I'm sure, have struggled with or continue to struggle with. How do you set your rates? Madison wants to know, like, because you mentioned that you knew you weren't being paid your worth, but how did you know? Like, and how do you set your rates? Is it now different because you're signed? Or talk to us a little bit about that real quick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now it's kind of different because I am signed, so like I don't really handle that, which is like amazing. But in the beginning, like I said, like when I was producing my own content, it gave me the full tea. Like I knew who was working for what they needed to make XYZ happen. And then also like it helped me meet a lot more department heads. And so I was asking them like, yo, how much are you getting paid? Like all the white men too. I was like, yo, how much are you getting paid? And like, can I double that? Like it was very funny. But I think making sure you compare notes, even with your coworkers, like Aspen and Jenny's dynamic is so beautiful. Like they're so close and like they're doing the same thing. And I think it's important to find other people that do what you do. Like my homegirl Erin, like she's a really dope Black woman DP too in the industry. And sometimes I'll call her and I'll be like, yo, this happened to me on set. Is this weird? And she'll be like, yes. And then it just helps me kind of feel more seen and also know that someone has my back. And then also we talk about rates too. Like I call her and I say, oh, I'm working for XYZ rate right now. Is this too low for a commercial or for a commercial that demands XYZ? And so it's important to just be comparing notes and also like even just asking mentors too. Like even my students from Made in Her Image, like a few students reached out to me and they said, this is my work. This is the camera package that I have. How much do you think I can make with the resources and the work that I've done? And I gave them a quote because I have no problem like kind of sharing those resources. So it's important to just like find mentors that can support you in that way as well.
Exactly. Now it is 3:00 and I do try my best to keep these on time. You have 2 or 3 more burning questions. Is it okay if I ask them?
Yes, I love it. I mean,
okay.
I don't have anything to do today. I'm gonna just chill. I was actually on a set before this. It's crazy. It was a crazy morning. So when I pulled up, all collected, I was hella fake. Like I was like, oh, I'm cute. I'm not. I've been operating all morning. Like I was up at like 6 and we went to go shoot Run and Gun in downtown. Very interesting. But it was so fun. Like, but I almost was scared I was gonna be late. So after today, like after this, I'm chill. So if y'all wanna ask more questions, I'm here.
I'm gonna ask you 2 more. Thank you. You know, I do try to be respectful for people's time. So Lauren wanted to know, Lauren, are you still in the chat? Do you want to ask this yourself or should I?
Hey, yeah, I can ask myself. Thank you so much. First of all, let me scroll up to where my question was. I basically was just asking like, what is the process like for you to decide if you want to DP on someone's script? Because I imagine it's a bit different now that you're signed, and I know there's like so many projects as a creative that you can take on. So I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like for narrative specific, I think with commercial, it's like a gray area. Like sometimes I'll do it because I really need the money right now, or I'll do the job because the creative's really cool and I feel like it'll be a good portfolio piece, or it's just like something for me to like be on set because sometimes I have withdrawals from set. I think that's a lot of different reasons, but for narrative, it's a lot harder because there's just so many different things that come with it. And for me, with my narrative stuff, I try to be more intentional. So like it really is always just grounded in the script. If I really connect with the script or the creative, if it's a documentary, and like, what is this project saying about the world, about who I am as a Black woman? How is me investing my time in this project going to give back to the community? And if it's like something that doesn't feel intentional, or something that the dialogue kind of feels off to like how my personal experiences are, or like just people that I know, it doesn't always have to be about me, but it just still has to be about some kind of facet of my life that I can relate to, or else it just affects the work and I don't feel as good about it. And so it's just finding narrative projects that just I really connect with on an emotional level, and like how can I give back with whatever I'm capturing with the project.
Beautiful. Someone submitted this question earlier. With all that you've done and will do, but up to this point right now, what has been your proudest accomplishment for yourself?
Ooh, damn, there's levels to that. Honestly, I think it's the community aspect, like that wholesome story I shared about like being able to like share space with the woman that I work with at my house the other day. Like those are the kind of moments that I live for. I'm very over emotional and like very compassionate, very appreciative, and like there's just so much context to that experience. Like these women have done so many different things for me on my own personal projects, and like sacrificed so much for me, been there for me when I was stressed, been there for me when I needed support. And I think those are the kind of things that you can't replace. And I feel like that's also what kind of makes us stand out from like our white male counterparts, is like they don't have that community, they don't have that compassion when they create, and it's just boring. It's like vanilla, like it's boring. Like I'd be on their sets sometimes if I'm like under accrual, and I'm just like, this is so boring, like no one's happy and no one's connecting, no one has like that kind of relationship. And that's kind of helps me realize that like it's important for me to still like keep my community strong and stay building my community, because that's what has helped me stay sane through it all, especially to be creating and working for commercial clients in a time like right now with Black Lives Matter and everything going on and COVID and XYZ. It's important to have those people that keep you grounded.
And what do you hope to do next? I know a lot of creators hate that question, and I hate it sometimes as well.
Yeah.
It's like, can I just focus on the now? I don't even know what tomorrow is gonna bring.
Live the moment, right?
Like, I don't even know what tomorrow is looking like for me. So it's so hard for me to even think about what's next. And I want you to, of course, celebrate your current wins, but, you know, any like projects coming up, anything we should look out for, anything you want to do that you haven't done?
Yeah, I think for me is just telling more stories about Black women, honestly. Like I feel like that's what I've been actively seeking out right now, is more narrative projects that give me that that make me feel like I'm contributing to a larger whole. And so I think for this next chapter in my career, I want to support the homies, get my homies paid, and do a little more commercial work so that I can reinvest in other things as well, to kind of like be able to pick up more narrative like passion projects, because I know that narrative is always like you have to take a chance on it to like get your work seen. And so I want to be able to just make more space for me to be telling these like more Black independent films. And so that's just something I'm always like actively thinking about. And then also I think long term is just end goal for Red Futon specifically is like we really want a safe space, a studio warehouse. I'm manifesting this. I manifested this on Twitter. We want a studio warehouse with a fully built out G&E package, and also like a proper, like all these different things. We have so many dreams for Red Futon, and like I just want to create this space so that people can see like the importance of that community aspect and like be able to provide that resource for the community, because it's hard, like especially as an upcoming like Black woman in this industry, it's hard to find the spaces to shoot at, the gear to shoot at, the resources, and like being able to provide that space to teach, but also give space for people to make their work happen is like a long-term goal of mine. And that's hopefully something that I have coming up soon that I can
That is
invest
something
in.
you have coming up soon. That is. Yeah. We're all gonna be witness to that. One more question is from Des. Have you ever found yourself sacrificing, you know, your personal creativity for time constraints or for the client in these white spaces?
Yup. All the time. I think that's actually a good question. I think it's like important to be prepared for that, because there are certain things that are worth fighting and certain things that aren't. And sometimes like you have to think about it like this, like it's not, to a client, it's like their baby. They're investing money in this. They've worked hard on this. They've probably worked months on this, XYZ. But to us, like as image makers, we're here to support them and help them achieve that goal. And so you have to kind of lens it more in a way of like, how can I support this, but also still get what's mine? And so like I said, like before, like the decks, like having an in-depth decks help me like be upfront, because then I can say like, this is the lighting I want to do, and I'm upfront about this, and this is the resources that I need to make this happen. And making sure, especially for lighting, like I think for me, if there's a lighting kind of style that I really want to do, but it's not like initially it's not working with the budget, I find ways to talk to my gaffer and find easier ways to make it happen with the lighting budget. Or sometimes I like sacrifice something from my camera budget to help my lighting budget, or I'm sacrificing from my lighting budget to help my camera budget. And so it's finding ways to make it easier for the client to make your like vision happen. And then also sometimes it's just like making it feel like it's their idea. Like if you're like, oh yeah, like this idea that you thought of, like spicing it in there, that helps too. But I think you don't want to be a nuisance. You want to just be supportive and helpful as much as you can. And that kind of helps people find it easier to work with you, and then also make your creative visions also more stern.
You know, like on that same note, like I'm sure you probably have spoke to this already, but for you, what has been like the biggest lesson that you've learned in your journey as an image maker?
Ooh. I think like not be comfortable with failure, but learn that failure is like inevitable. And I think that is going to be true for the rest of your career. Like you're not going to always get that job. You're not always it's going to be hard to get into that space. You're going to be up against XYZ white man that has done XYZ for XYZ. And you still have to keep going and stick with it. And I think it's important to understand that, especially for filmmakers, but also like even photographers as well. Like it's important to still stay true to yourself, even though failure happens, but it is inevitable. And like, it's about how you take the mess ups and the failures and make it into lessons and adapt your career and shape it and stuff like that.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Okay, let me see. It's already 10 minutes after. Does anyone have like one more burning question that you want to ask while we still have the one and only in our room? No more questions. I personally have a question because, you have a lot going on. You're a mentor, you are an educator, you are running your own projects, okay, let me see. Oh, I just got one, sorry. What are passion projects you go for? Okay, so LJ wants to know, in terms of the work you do, do you still have time to do passion projects? And if so, which ones do you go for?
I usually I'm more lenient to doing more passion projects for narrative work. Because like with music video commercial, like it's always for a client, it's always for a bigger picture. But I feel like with narrative, you have more creative control and more like realm to play. But I feel like I'm more attracted to stories around like magical realism. Like I love magical realism. I love stories that talk about like social impact or just things around capturing like slice of life, like Black identity and like Black personal experiences. So like those are kind of more of the stories that I'm attracted to. It's really just dependent on the script and like what is it trying to say, how can I relate to it, and how can I elevate this with visuals and stuff.
Okay, one more question. How did you get signed?
Oh, I still don't 100% know, but like when she asked me, I was like, are you sure? I was like, wait, are you sure? But I think social media definitely played a big part. A lot of my rep kind of found me through another DP that she has signed, and he vouched for me, and then I just knew a lot of the same people that she knew, and so like all directions were kind of pointing to me, and she was like, okay, hey. And she reached out through social media. So I think social media was a big part of it, and then also just like the work of like being able to kind of just be impressionable in that first meeting too. We had a meeting and she like asked me a few questions, and I just told her about what I care about, and I guess she resonated with that. And what I love about Gersh is like all my reps are women, which is fucking amazing. You never see that. And two, I love Gersh because they're supportive of the creative. Like it's not just like a money game, even though they are a big agency, you would think that, but they're really just honing on like, do you resonate with this? Do you care about this? We don't want you to do this if you don't feel good about the creative, because it's gonna like end up in the work and stuff like that. And so they're really supportive about finding the balance between getting me commercial clients that I resonate with, but also making space to do passion projects and things that actually fulfill me as well, on another like in-depth level and stuff like that.
You mentioned social media a few times now, and it's no secret, I love social. That's how I found you and your work. But what's one like practical thing or one thing about social media that, those who are watching can do to maximize it to get this work? I mean, you got discovered, signed, of course your work plays a big part, but the way you use social media as well. So, outside of like the cat memes and things like that? Like what can, what can people do to really maximize it and use it for work like you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's a tit for tat. I think one, definitely like reaching out to people and like doing the research. So like if there's a music video that you really like, you love the direction of it, or you love the production quality of it, or you love the DP of it, it's important to like research those names, find them on social media, and like follow their work, follow their journey, and reach out to them like, hey, can we get coffee and talk about this project you did? I really loved it. Would love to know more about XYZ. And like that kind of helps you create more intimate relationships with the people in the industry. But also what's helped me as well is like, like I think it's just common that like Black film Twitter does, like where you post like 4 stills from your work and you're like, hey, my name is XYZ, I'm a DP that wants to tell Black stories. Here's some of my work, here's my website. Doing that occasional like self plug is fire. And I think it's important because then it like helps traction online around your work, and people share it, your friends will share it, but then also people can find you and find your work. And it just kind of like helps you get in the room, is like just being vocal about what you do every so often so people know. And it can become like draining sometimes to do all the time, but I think every so often it's important because like I said earlier, like we as Black women too specifically, we have to work 10 times harder to like get our names out there. Like it's not just a word of mouth thing to us all the time from the beginning. Like we have to actually put ourselves out there, and it's a very vulnerable process, but it helps you get in these like hidden spaces that are hard to break into.
That's real. Remind people who you are. Yes. And you mentioned YouTube. And of course, there's your classes and Made in Her Image. But what other, resources, preferably free, would you recommend for those who are just starting out? What is one thing someone can, check out, listen to, whatever they can?
There's a lot of like podcasts. I think it's kind of weird because I get all my resources from the groups that I'm a part of. So that's why it's important to be a part of groups, because people like specifically like with Sporus Co. That I'm a part of, they're always dropping like crazy resources where I'm like, whoa, like is this free? Like, are you sure? And they drop like like sometimes they do Zoom calls and they do like lens tests, and they'll have like the lens manufacturer come in and actually talk about the breakdown of the glass and like how you can even like source the gear in XYZ areas. And then also people post like someone posted like a master folder of like full on production resources, like shotless tempos and fucking like gear breakdowns and stuff like that, like just nitty gritty like tech resources. And so that's why it's important to be like I said, it always goes back to community. Like find those groups, like the JTC list on Facebook, definitely. And then Sporus Co. It's like you can like apply online, and then they put you on a Slack page, and then they share all the resources. Black women photographers, you have the resources. It's important to just like research, and also you can always reach out to me, and I think I should put like a master list together of what I'm a part of, because like that's how I've gotten jobs from there too, which is really cool as well.
That would be amazing. I can follow up with you for that and send it to people because folks are already asking like what groups. Okay, so yes, your assistant stays ready. She put it in the chat. Yes, she is so quick. Okay, so everyone could see that those are the ones that she mentioned, but she also said, to find what's right for you and do your research and see what groups that make sense for you and what you need. But those are the 2. I'll follow up about
who is nice too.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay. And I'll follow up about the master list whenever you have time, if I can send it, because I have everyone's emails who, RSVPs. I can send it out, or people can just reach out to you, like you said. My last question for you was about self-care. How, with everything that you do, because I need this for myself, I'm going to be selfish and ask this for myself and for whoever else is watching, but with everything that you do, how do you practice self-care? What is your form of self-care in this time?
Sharing space with people, like actually reaching out to those people who are like, oh, let's hang out, and then I never reach out because I'm on a job. I've tried to do better and like follow up and actually like create space for me to like connect with people on more intimate levels that aren't about work. And so even with like filmmakers too, like I'll hang out with filmmakers, not make it about work because I need friendship and I need companionship, and like I'm a Leo, like I need that for like self-love. That is what fills me up. And so just making more space for my friends and for my family, I think already has saved my life too, because now I can actually go home on the weekend and visit my family and share space with them, and or just like hang out with my friends, go visit my friends. And like I think that's what has kept me grounded through these crazy times.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for taking a little over an hour and 20 minutes of your time this Sunday. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. If you need her information, you know, it's on her website. So please do reach out. Please follow Red Futon, follow her project, her baby, all her babies made in her image. Go support this young Black woman who is doing it. And shout out to the assistant, Areli. She just put it in the chat. Reach out to her for inquiries. And remember what she said, you know, come correct when you reach out to her. So please, your intro needs to be correct.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me, Polly.
Yes, prepared, please. You know, so please reach out to her.
She reads all the emails, so
Yes.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for listening and engaging and asking questions. And let me know how I can support y'all. Like I said, like I understand how hard it is, especially moving to LA, especially like just finding the right like directions to look into. So I'm always around, even if it's not necessarily right away. Like reach out to Areli, follow the platforms I'm about. I'm always posting just random shit. So I'm here.
Amazing. Thank you all. Thank you, Adobe Lightroom, for making this possible as well.
Again. I use it all the time. I've cried to y'all at 3 a.m.
Oh my goodness. This recording will be made available for y'all to watch again later, to get the gems once more, and to see her receipts pulled up. So I will save this for y'all if you want to watch, or if you have friends who wanted to attend but couldn't make it. Any closing thoughts from you?
Yeah, thank you guys. Y'all matter, and we need more of you guys in these spaces. So stay connected with me, follow the same things that I said, like community is important, live below your means, reach out to people to hold you accountable, because that will help you in your career as it gets crazier and crazier.
Amazing. Thank you again. Thank you, everyone. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Thank you so much for having me.